Do you ever plant a gorgeous perennial, watch it sparkle for a week or two, and wish it would just keep going? If long color through the seasons is your gardening holy grail, this video is for you. I've tested hundreds of perennials in beds, borders, and containers, and I know which ones truly deliver sustained, reliable blooms. Plants that keep the garden lively from late spring well into fall if you give them the right spot and a bit of routine care. In this video, you'll get 10 of the best, longest blooming perennial flowers. Varieties that extend the show with repeat flowering, long-lasting spikes, or a steady flush of blossoms when dead-headed or lightly trimmed. No fluff, just real, usable guidance so your borders and containers stay full of color for months. 1. Rudbeckia, Black-Eyed Susan. Rudbeckias, often called Black-Eyed Susans, are among the most dependable, long-blooming perennials you can grow. They are the golden faces of late summer and autumn, lighting up borders with cheerful, daisy-like flowers that seem to glow in the sun. Blooming typically begins in midsummer and, with a little care, can last straight through to frost, making them one of the hardest-working perennials in any garden. What makes Rudbeckias so valuable is their toughness. These plants thrive in full sun and tolerate heat, drought, and even less than perfect soils. In fact, they prefer average, well-drained ground. Too much fertilizer only encourages excessive leafy growth and fewer flowers. Once they're established, they need minimal care. The main trick for keeping flowers going is deadheading. By regularly removing faded blooms, you encourage the plant to keep producing fresh buds instead of focusing its energy on making seed. This simple step can extend the blooming season by weeks. Rudbeckias come in a variety of sizes and forms. Classic tall varieties like Rudbeckia fulgida or Rudbeckia hirta can reach 2 to 4 feet, adding structure and height to late summer borders. Shorter, compact cultivars such as Little Gold Star are ideal for smaller beds, edging, or even containers. Their bright yellow or golden orange petals with a dark central cone create a bold, sunny effect that pairs beautifully with asters, sedums, echinacea, ornamental grasses, or Russian sage. Together, these combinations produce a dynamic, textural garden that keeps visual energy high when many other flowers are fading. Beyond their ornamental value, Rudbeckias are champions for wildlife. Bees and butterflies flock to their open, nectar-rich flowers in summer. Later in the season, if you leave seed heads standing, finches and other birds will visit to feast, turning your garden into a late-season feeding station. The dark sculptural seed heads also add winter interest, standing tall against frost or snow. Rudbeckias are also relatively trouble-free. They can sometimes suffer from powdery mildew or leaf spots in humid weather, but proper spacing and airflow usually prevent problems. Their sturdy stems resist flopping, even in heavy summer rains, and they rarely require staking. For gardeners seeking long-lasting color and reliability, Rudbeckias are nearly unmatched. They provide weeks upon weeks of golden blooms, stand up to challenging conditions, and support pollinators and birds. They're not just flowers, they're the backbone of a summer to fall perennial display. 2. Echinacea coneflower. Echinacea or coneflower is one of the longest blooming perennials you can grow. Native to North America, it begins flowering in early summer and often continues until the first frost. Unlike plants that bloom once and fade, Echinacea keeps producing new buds while older blooms still look good. Even after the petals fall, its spiky seed heads remain striking and provide food for birds like goldfinches in autumn. Classic varieties show pink-purple petals around a bold orange cone, but modern hybrids expand the palette to whites, yellows, oranges, and even doubles. Whatever the color, Echinacea's strong stems and daisy-like form bring structure and vibrancy to the garden. Plant them in full sun and well-drained soil. They thrive on lean conditions and are drought-tolerant once established. Too much fertilizer or soggy ground can lead to floppy stems or crown rot, so less fuss is better. A spring feeding, light deadheading, and occasional division every few years are usually all they need. Design-wise, Echinacea shines and drifts, blending beautifully with Nepeta, Salvia, Rudbeckia, phlox, or ornamental grasses. It suits cottage gardens, prairie-style plantings, or even modern borders where the seed heads stand as bold winter accents. Problems are rare. Some leaf spots or beetles may appear, but healthy, well-spaced plants resist most issues. Echinacea offers months of blooms, supports pollinators in summer, feeds birds in fall, and adds winter structure. It's easy, resilient, and endlessly rewarding, truly a must-have for any perennial garden. 3. Coreopsis. Coreopsis is a stalwart of long-blooming garden color. Many Coreopsis cultivars begin flowering in late spring and, with deadheading, maintain steady blooms all summer into early fall. The species' approach, fast, prolific flowering, and quick production of new buds, makes it ideal for low-fuss summer color. Coreopsis likes full sun and well-drained soil. Too much shade reduces flower production, while rich soils sometimes encourage foliage over flowers. Regular removal of spent blooms dramatically extends the display, and cutting back by a third in midsummer can encourage a healthy second flush. Varieties vary in height and habit. Short, compact types suit containers and border fronts, while taller cultivars anchor mid-sized beds. Coreopsis blends beautifully with grasses, Salvia and Rudbeckia, bringing bright, cheerful tones that keep the garden lively for weeks. They have relatively few pest problems, though powdery mildew can appear in humid summers if air movement is restricted. For constant summer color that asks little of you beyond an occasional deadhead, Coreopsis is a brilliant choice. 4. Nepeta. Nepeta is a perpetual performer for pollinator-friendly long-season color. In many gardens, it begins blooming in late spring and, if regularly trimmed back after the first flush, produces waves of aromatic spikes well into fall. Nepeta's secret is its open, arching habit and abundant short-lived flowers. A quick shear after the first heavy bloom rejuvenates foliage and triggers a fresh round of buds. It thrives in full sun and lean, well-drained soil. Unlike needy perennials, it prefers not to be over-fertilized, which keeps it neat and floriferous. Varieties such as Walker's Low have become standards because they combine long bloom with tidy form. Nepeta is a brilliant companion for roses, lavenders, and echinacea. Its gray-green foliage softens structural plants, while the long flowering period supplies nectar to bees and butterflies from early summer through frost. Pests seldom bother Nepeta, though heavy winter wet can cause crown decline. Lift and deweed every few years to refresh the clump. For container use, select compact cultivars and deadhead lightly to maintain continuous bloom. Overall, Nepeta rewards light maintenance with months of delicate, fragrant flowers. 5. Salvia. Perennial salvias are champions of prolonged floriferousness. Starting in late spring, many salvias surge into bloom and sustain flower spikes through summer into autumn, especially if you shear spent spikes to encourage rebloom. Their long season power is a mix of continuous spike production and heat tolerance. Salvias often reflower when watered and lightly fed. They prefer full sun and well-drained soil. In heavy, wet ground, they can sulk or succumb to crown rot. Deadheading or cutting salvias back after the first wave typically produces a strong second flush of blooms, sometimes into frost. Varieties like May Night and many modern breeding selections give extended color and compact, tidy habit. Salvias are magnet plants for pollinators. Bees, hummingbirds, and butterflies visit repeatedly, so they're a great choice for ecological gardens that stay active all season. Combine perennial salvia with Nepeta, echinacea, and ornamental grasses for textured summer borders. Expect occasional slugs or snails in damp springs and prune in late winter to remove old wood. For gardeners chasing months of vertical color, few perennials match salvia's consistency. 6. Agastache. Agastache, also called giant hyssop or hummingbird mint, is prized for spiky flower wands that attract pollinators and last an impressively long time, often from early summer into fall. Its long bloom habit stems from continual bud, formation along the spike, and a tolerance for heat and dryness that lets it keep flowering where thirstier plants fade. Plant Agastache in full sun with well-drained soil. It dislikes winter wet and benefits from leaner soils that promote bloom, rather than excessive foliage. Pinching or deadheading after the first flush encourages a longer show. Some gardeners cut the spikes back mid-season to stimulate fresh growth. Agastache's fragrant foliage adds summer scent when brushed, and the plant is deer-resistant and drought-tolerant once established. Cultivars offer colors from purple and blue to orange and peach, Select according to your palate. Use Agastache and pollinator borders, cottage gardens, or Mediterranean-style plantings alongside lavender, salvia, and ornamental grasses. Common problems are minimal. Watch for root rot in poorly drained beds. And its long seasonality plus wildlife value makes it an excellent choice for months of active bloom. 7. Gaura. Gaura is the epitome of airy, endless bloom. From late spring through autumn, Gaura produces clouds of delicate, butterfly-like flowers that flutter on wiry stems, giving the impression of a garden perpetually in motion. This long season is a result of continuous bud formation along sprawling stems and a tolerance for heat and light drought that lets Gaura continue blooming when other perennials falter. It prefers full sun and well-drained soil. In very fertile sites, it can sprawl more and produce fewer flowers, so leaner soils and occasional trimming keep it compact and floriferous. A mid-season shear by a third will often trigger fresh flushing, and removing old stems in early spring readies the plant for another long run. Gaura is wonderful in naturalized borders, prairie-style plantings, and containers. Compact cultivars are best for pots. It pairs nicely with salvia, nepeta, echinacea, and grasses, the Gaura's light texture balancing denser flower heads. While not free of issues, Gaura is generally trouble-free. Watch for root rot and poor drainage and cut back hard in late winter and cold climates. The airy, extended bloom and effortless charm make Gaura a favorite for months of delicate color. 8. Sedum. Sedums, particularly the late-blooming upright types, are invaluable for a long season finale. Starting in late summer, sedum heads develop, and their flower clusters mature and persist well into autumn, ripening in color and often remaining attractive even after frost. This late, sustained interest makes sedum a cornerstone of a long-season planting palette. Sedums are drought-tolerant, prefer full sun, and flourish in lean, well-drained soils where other plants might sulk. Maintenance is minimal. Divide clumps occasionally to maintain vigor, deadhead if you want to keep a tidier look, or leave the blooms for winter structure and seed for birds. Sedum's succulent foliage also brings textural contrast to borders. In design, sedums anchor late-season borders paired with Rudbeckia, aster, and ornamental grasses. They are pest and disease resistant for the most part. Slugs or snails can nibble young shoots in damp springs. For gardeners seeking color that stretches from late summer through fall and beyond as the flower heads change tone, sedum is indispensable. 9. Verbena bonariensis. Verbena bonariensis is a long-blooming, airy perennial that delivers vertical drama and a parade of small clustered flowers from early summer right through the first frost in many climates. Its tall, wiry stems topped with lavender or purple flower clusters are continually attractive to butterflies and beneficial insects. And because the plant keeps blooming while producing new stems, it supplies color for months. It prefers full sun and well-drained soil, and tolerates heat and humidity better than many tender perennials. Deadheading is optional. Some gardeners trim spent clusters to encourage fresh flushes, but the plant's open habit means it rarely needs fussing. Verbena mixes beautifully with short perennial drifts, grasses, and bold structural plants. Its height and sheer duration make it ideal for a mid to back border accent, providing continuous pollinator forage. In colder zones, it may act as a short-lived perennial or require winter protection, but in many areas it behaves as a reliable long bloomer. Watch for powdery mildew in very humid conditions and provide good airflow to prevent it. For season-long, sky-reaching color that butterflies adore, tall verbena is a top pick. 10. Hemeracalis, daylily. Daylilies are famous because a single scape's individual blooms last a day, but the plant's strength lies in repetitive flowering across many scapes. Some modern cultivars and clumping types will produce a dramatic, extended display from late spring through summer and into fall in temperate climates. The trick is variety selection. Choose repeat blooming cultivars such as Stella de Oro for compact pots or re-bloomers for extended beds, and cultural care. Full sun equals more flowers. Rich but well-drained soil produces vigorous clumps, and dividing every 3 to 5 years keeps the crown productive. Deadheading spent scapes and removing old foliage encourages fresh growth. A mid-season light fertilizer or mulch of compost will boost bud set and lengthen bloom. Daylilies tolerate heat, drought once established, and a range of soils, which is why they keep producing when more tender perennials have faded. They also play nicely as background color with Salvia, Coreopsis, or ornamental grasses. Challenges are few but include spider mites in arid conditions and crown rot where drainage is poor. If you want weeks, sometimes months, of color from a plant that demands almost no fuss, daylilies are a top pick. That's your 10 tried and true perennials that genuinely stretch the season when sited and cared for correctly. A few quick universal tips to squeeze the most out of any long-blooming perennial. Plant for the sun. Needs of the species. Use lean but well-drained soil to favor flower over lush foliage. Deadhead or shear strategically to encourage rebloom. Give a light mid-season fertilizer when a plant's performance flags. And divide or refresh clumps every few years to maintain vigor. Mix heights, textures, and bloom times. Drifts of long bloomers plus a few structural grasses or shrubs will keep the garden humming from late spring into the deep autumn glow.